What's going on, everybody, and welcome once again to another Faqs Project podcast. And this one is a special one. For one, it's our 200th episode. So we've been doing this, of course, for a long time, since 2020. And yes, I appreciate the both of you. But for one, I have two very special guests who I haven't talked to in a very, very long time. And this is actually a turning point for them as well, because this is a whole milestone issue, pun included. Pun included. So obviously, Lloyd, Natosha Jones, Midnight Comics. We are here to talk about a 5-year omnibus, Tales from Midnight, that is live on Kickstarter right now with about a week left. Of course, this was historic for your brand. It's historic for your company. I've known the both of you for a very long time. I literally have your first book. So
yeah.
This is a full circle moment. So to talk about this is a pleasure, and to have both of you on, of course, is a pleasure as well. So I start with this. What does hitting the 5-year milestone for you personally and for the legacy of Midnight Comics mean to you?
You want to start with that one?
It's first off, it's crazy to think, because I don't think we ever thought we'd get here.
Right.
It just wasn't even in our minds.
It's very surreal feeling.
But it does bring us a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, knowing our kids got to watch this process, get to hopefully be involved in this process very soon, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving a legacy for them, leaving a legacy of our stories, and continuing to do so, because I've realized, I can't speak for him, and I've said this a lot over the last few months, I've realized how much I love doing this.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't feel like work, does it?
No, just stories just come and then they get written and then I'm happy.
That's what's happening. Now, okay, Lloyd, I'll give you this. When you look back at your earliest issues, what feels the most different compared to what you're creating now?
Oh gosh. The way that we've improved in our storytelling, the scripting has just gone leaps and bounds, right? So even going back to how that first book turned out, which of course is the first one, so excited, great.
Yeah.
But how we were able to take what was and go, you know what? The world is more lived in than just, hey, the main character does X, Y, and Z. What does the city look like? What's the fashion look like? Mm-hmm. Why is the fashion look like this? How did we get to this point over the course of these years, so on and so forth? And so, although, yes, we did the research and we did, looked into stuff and worked on it when we first started, now it's just like, no. Unbeloved, the Gray, these are universes. Let's place ourselves in them. Mm-hmm. What does it truly look like? And now, how we write now is so much more in-depth in comparison to when we first started. It's glorious.
Hey, you know what? I kind of feel like you guys have, for the most part, been visionaries, of course, in this process, to the point now where you kind of see the world different. Like you're seeing it through this comic book making lens, to where you're looking at certain situations, that are happening throughout the world, not only locally, but nationally, but globally. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I can create this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll even push it even a little bit further. And I'll go to Natosha. Was there a specific moment where you realized that this universe that you guys were building had long-term staying power?
Now, I will say for that, definitely when we started, because all the different stories that we created had a place we wanted them to go, have always wanted them to go. We started with the end in mind, but we knew it was going to take a lot of build-up to get there.
Yeah.
So there was no choice but them all to be long-term, so that we could tell these stories fully. And it's knowing where they're going from where they are now is like, oh, it's crazy.
Right.
It's about to get real crazy.
Yeah.
And of course, I edit Soul, for instance, but he writes it. And I know where it's going. I know all the story beats, but I'm reading along as he writes the different issues. And even in just issues 4, 5, I'm like, oh, snap. Oh, this is getting good. And I think currently my favorite issue is issue 8.
Yeah.
Is that when
Yeah.
Issue 8. I'm like, oh, this is good. This is good. Oh, I can't wait for this to come out. I can't wait for this to get drawn because this is good.
Yeah.
And then it's things are really going to start to be realized by the reader too at that point in time. And I know if I'm enjoying it, because I'm hard on him, then everyone else will enjoy it.
Excellent. So obviously, seeing what your company has done in the past couple of years, because obviously you've taken on interns, you've taken, so you're basically doing an each one teach one campaign. You are now turning this and identifying it as a Black family owned indie publisher and shaping your stories of who you choose to tell, and even going further in that amount and basically looking at the people who are looking into you and be like, hey, I would like to study off of you, and be like, okay, cool, this is how it's done. And you're actually now taking the role as mentors as well as being the writers and owners of this particular company. So that's got to be a sort of gratifying tool itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of our core values is to pull while we climb, right? Because why have anybody that's, coming up along with us, behind us, or even ahead of us, if we know that there's, resources that we wish we had prior to, if there was mistakes that we knew we were making or what have you, why have you stumble and make those same mistakes, right? I think how I worded the last night, we're climbing up the ladder together. Why would I have you hit that broken rung? Like, let's get you past that so you could be in a better position than we were. Right. Don't stumble like we did. Be better than us. Have a better starting position. So man. Because I was going to say, not to ramble, but one of the things that that we were worried about when we started the internship process, but we also kind of found pride, and it's kind of a moment of realization. Like, no, there is value. It's like, this is an unpaid internship. By the time you guys get out of here, we're gonna do certifications together. Yeah. Right. So we're going to grow together in that aspect. Social media marketing. We're going to learn, you know what I'm saying? We're going to learn everything together. Email marketing, all this other stuff. So we got certifications together, but then we did the midnight showcase that was like, but at the end of this, for real, you guys are going to be published authors and artists. And you guys are getting paid out from it. And these are your stories and IPs. We will never claim anything. These are your projects. Go forth into the world and do what you do with it, what you will.
Yeah, and that's the big resume builder. Like if I have, because a lot of people come out and be like, hey, I have a story, but I don't have published works.
Exactly.
So I can see how much of a big deal it is. But to get to this omnibus, which of course is a collection of the massive amount of stories that you've told, what makes this omnibus more than just a collection? What's new and what's reimagined here? There's the stuff that you did 5 years ago, and there's stuff that you've done months ago.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think you could really see the progression first off, because you'll be able to read everything just in order of how our writing has gotten better. And let me say, it's gotten even better, which will definitely be shown in the newer stories that will be coming out after this. And so this, of course, is a collection of everything we've released in the last 5 years, but it's also a look behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So there's sneak peeks into our inspirations behind some of the stories, some of his old character sketches and stuff like that, sneak peeks at the stories that we're working on and some of the inspirations behind them, some covers for them, some like whatever art we've gotten done for them so far in the book. There's an unreleased book called Attack of the Fog that we did in collaboration with our local water authority. Making us the first comic book company ever to work with a utility company. And we partnered with them and created this educational book about fats, oils, and greases in the drain. And it was definitely an very interesting experience.
Yeah.
We learned a lot.
Yep.
We know some things have changed for the future, but we are also excited that we get to keep working with them in the future as well. And so all of that is in this, which is why it's so huge. 630 pages. It's crazy. I made him put it all together. That's not my kind of tedious work. That's his kind of tedious work. He loves that. Right. He can have it. But yeah, it's just I'm personally excited for getting this to people and getting the next rung of stories out.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the stories that we're working on that haven't been released have been so different and so much fun. There's Sundown, which is a detective noir story about two married detectives who were trained by Ace Harlem, and we are role playing it like a TTRPG.
That's amazing.
In order to create the story.
Yep.
There's God Hand, which is a Super Sentai story about a half Japanese, half black girl who joins the most dysfunctional Super Sentai team you've ever seen. There's
Birth of the
Dragon Coil, which you know more about that than me for sure, so I'm not going to get into what it's about. There's Dreamweaver, which is an Afrofuturistic Robin Hood type story.
Right.
So there's so many other stories, and so many more that aren't written and ready to get art done yet, that are just sitting waiting for us to be able to write them.
See, that's amazing, because I know that you guys have never stopped. But and when it came to the actual omnibus, like, how did you decide which stories define the core? I like to call them like the flagship stories of this omnibus that you basically put together. What were those flagship characters? What were the worlds that you basically wanted to put in this? That, like, it's almost like a reintroduction of y'all. So it's like,
yeah, exactly.
What did you want to make sure was going to get put in everybody's hands?
We wanted to of course, we wanted to showcase what was, right, and give anybody that might even be new to us, that beautiful idea of what we have to offer. In regards to answering the first question with the flagship situation, we let the people decide that. But we did a poll when Tales from Midnight 1 dropped. We did a poll, and when 2 dropped, but we did it first time with 1. It was just like, what do you want to see more of, right? What did you think of these stories? And the people chose Soul in the Gray, and so since Soul in the Gray have been, when you think Midnight Comics, those are the characters that you think of.
For sure.
And so one of the ideas with the omnibus was, that's cool. Here's everything we've been able to accomplish in that 5 years with that. But this omnibus is going to help propel these other stories that we have in the background. But when the Kickstarter ends, what we're going to do is ask everybody that backed it, all right, you let your voice be known once more. Soul in the Gray is taking care of itself. What you want to see next? And we give them the list, give them the synopsis, they'll vote. And those are the stories that are going to be, move forward at that point. So really, it's just really the community is guiding us through this whole thing. And the whole idea of the omnibus was, you guys did this. You brought us here. Here is the thank you. Tell us what you want now. Now you're reintroduced. Now you have everything in your hand. You got the inspiration. You know even more with the character bios. You see the old sketches, everything like that. All right, you got everything I got.
Yeah.
What you want now? So
now, okay, 5 years in doing this, are there any stories that hit differently now than 5 years ago that you've actually reintroduced yourself to and be like, damn,
that's tough.
You know what?
So I'll say the Gray, because we outlined it together. Right. And then she made some changes that now I'm just like, I'm with y'all. I'm like, I get to read it as a fan before it gets drawn. And I'm just like, when did you decide this is good though? Like, when did you? Yeah. And so, yeah, I think, obviously to avoid like the changes, what have you, just the direction and how it's written, and the feel of it. Because, of course, initially we were just kind of like, yeah, it's going to be, kind of somewhat of a sci-fi or superhero story. But the way that she's crafted this story into now, which you like to call a sci-fi comedy, right? And it's just like, oh, like, I don't think I can directly point to anything else in that genre necessarily. So it's just...
Exists.
I mean, yeah, it exists. Not to take away from it, but yeah, it's completely different. Completely different to me. Again, how we showed her initially and stuff, and seeing again how she's crafted the story and turned it into something new has been a joy. So yeah, completely different from what we started off with.
Now,
I'm sorry, I was thinking of something I threw in one of the issues that hasn't come out yet. I was like,
now to talk about the writing of how the storytelling evolved, I'll even get into it a little bit further. Natosha, how did the visuals and the art style evolve alongside the narrative?
First off, shout out to Tiger Salmon. who is the artist on the gray,
Mm-hmm.
because he does amazing work. And though my scripting has definitely evolved and gotten much better over the last 5 years, which actually makes it a lot easier for both of us, his art and his excitement in on these last few issues, definitely brings it home.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gotten better with scripting. I'm able to describe what I want to see and how I think it should look when it happens. But occasionally artists will change little things here and there, and you look and you're like, and this is why the right artist just works. Yeah. Because they know what you're trying to do. And this is why I completely believe in artistic freedom for artists.
Mm-hmm.
Let them put their own spin on it. Let them have a say in what happens and how it looks, because they might think of something better than you.
Yeah.
True. Very true. Now, I will ask this, because an omnibus may be a large thing to tackle as far as like something publishing that you're going to put out. But there's obviously projects that you wanted to get in there that didn't make it. And obviously that can cause a fit for a lot of people who be like, damn, I really wanted this one to get in there, but we'll save it. Was there any in particular that more so did not make the omnibus that you're probably like, okay, we're going to put this out?
Oh, no. Everything's in there. Everything's in there.
The only thing that's not in there is the interns books.
Right.
Got you.
Right. Which was amazing, right? Yeah. Like that's their stuff. Right. That's y'all stuff. We want to make sure that, that your voices, that we didn't overshadow your story and your voices and what you brought to the table, right? We do have a special nod to them in there. Won't dive into that. Absolutely. That'll be a nice little surprise, but nice little nod to them and what they were able to accomplish. But again, in regards to those stories, the Midnight Showcase was all theirs. But again, what we want them to do is be able to, project that along in their own aspect. But outside of that, every story is in there. So again, that everybody can. Now you can make another decision. Like, what is it that you like? Well, you guys have experienced superhero stories with us now. So if you want to see something completely different, which we have plenty that's different, that's what we're gonna put forth based on what the community wants to see.
Well, then I can ask you this, because now that you're kind of like veterans at this moment, I can pose a question like this: what does it really take to sustain an indie comic company for 5 years?
No. It froze just now.
It froze on you. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. No, I said I can ask you this because you're veterans. Like, what does it really take to sustain an indie comic company for 5 years?
Patience. Ooh. Go ahead, Lord. Patience. Loads of communication.
And building community.
Yep.
We've built a lot more community in the last 6 months to a year, honestly.
Now, how important is community building versus just selling books?
Pivotal.
So important.
It's so very important, because you could sell books and stuff like that. How to say this? There, not to regurgitate this presentation I saw a couple years back, but like a gentleman was talking about a donut shop, right? They had this big event. There was this, kind of red ribbon event. Donut was a regular donut, right, with some red frosting on it, but the packaging was there. The experience was one thing. And so, you could just sell books, but what were they doing at this event? They were building rapport. They were building community. They were giving people an experience. And you're not going to just, if your only mindset is just, I'm going to sell a book, make a couple dollars, get out of here. You don't care about the experience. You don't care about getting to know anybody and building any type of relationship. So again, community is absolutely pivotal. Getting to meet like-minded people, getting genuine feedback, delivering what it is, what people are asking for, right? Is absolutely key.
Yes, because honestly, if you don't build community, you won't get that genuine feedback.
No,
people will just be like, "Oh, well, I didn't really like this," and you don't seem like the kind of person I could really come back and give feedback to about it. So I'm definitely not going to try to revisit it later to see if you improved, because you don't seem like that kind of person.
Right.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than the customer that just does not say anything and just stops purchasing.
Right. Right.
Please let us know what you did or didn't like about it, so we can see if it's fixable.
Right. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why we got into this, we saw there was a void, right? And like so many of us that are in so many of us people of color, right? That's in place creative spaces. There was a void, right? There was a need that we had, and we're trying to find like-minded people, but there's an intersection, right? And it's just like, well, how did that void affect you? How can we help? Right. And so again, the idea, even thinking about how impact and legacy, like you brought up earlier, with our kids, our kids, with all of the Black indie stories that we've come across, supported, and have in our library, they should never have to they shouldn't have the same reason we did to get into the space. They shouldn't have to say, "Oh man, I didn't see anybody that looked like me." You did, but what's missing now?
Yeah.
What's the story? What is your experience in that? What's your experience that's missing right now that you can add to it? Because we all, at this point in the space, again, we see so many Black comics now. All right, everybody's got a Black comic now. Mm-hmm. But what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
The voice now is important, not just the optic of I'm Black. What is it that you're trying to say? Who is this geared towards? What is the thing that you needed to get out there? And so again, you're not going to know how else to grow in that aspect without community, without reaching out, anyway, I'm going to get into a soapbox and ramble. But
as Mars likes to say, being Black isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she says.
This is true. And the thing is, you can also double back on that, because how important is representation for Midnight Comics, and how intentional is that in your storytelling?
Oh,
very. However, I made a post on Threads from the Midnight Comics account the other day, and the post goes exactly like this. We did not set out to make Black comics.
Mm-hmm.
We set out to make comics that were willing to take risks and take chances that feature Black characters.
Mm-hmm.
So the Black was going to happen because that's us.
Right.
Regardless.
What was the overarching thing for our storytelling? Taking risks.
Mm-hmm.
That was what it was.
Which, when we were talking about, when you brought up like stuff that's happening in real life, what's happening now, it even goes into the naming convention for a company, right? One of the midnight, doomsday clock, end of the world, Black, darkness, that whole thing. But with our logo with the blood moon, there's biblical relevance to it as well. However, there's a blood moon. That means there's still light. Light means there's still hope. So even when it seems bleak, even when things seem hopeless, there's still hope on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, what does it mean to contribute to a legacy in Black indie comics today?
You start on this one.
It's 5 years. 5 years. You're in. It's not like I did a book and you ain't hear from me again.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Right. But I personally believe that part of that is the building community. Like I said, my friend made a post earlier today already. If you're just here to make money, then just be honest and say that.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay if that is your goal, but be honest, because then you can find those people that are cool with that and want to be a part of your community, I guess. Mm-hmm. But to be a part of the legacy is still in that building community, and not just building the community around you, but hoping people also be able to be in this space, allowing other people to be able to create their stories.
Right.
Because if you have a story to tell and you're willing to do the work, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to do that.
Right. I think mine's going to piggyback off of that. Essentially, just it's that follow through, right? Mm-hmm. Like, okay, let's if you end up being a trendsetter, if you end up making this breakthrough and figuring out the game plan on how to make it. Mm-hmm. All right, hey guys, this is what we did. Hey, let's make this happen, right? And it's that giving back aspect. You see that even with like with the Dakota incident situation that happened. You see, with the Milestone initiative, all of these things. You see the people that were there that set the stage, that set the bar, reaching back and saying, "All right, here's a path for you." Mm-hmm. And then you go on and you continue to see even those folks. They're on social media, big upping indies and so on and so forth. So again, it's that reaching back. It's just like what we said about our core values. It's that pulling while you climb.
Yeah.
That's how you keep the legacy going.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
It's the only way is being humble and being willing to say, hey, here you go. What was that? Oh, my joint, you're next. You know what I'm saying? I said, pointing back, going, yeah, we did this. This is our stopping point. That's all right, because you're going to do better than me. You're going to go beyond this. So.
And also knowing when to let go. You can't save the world. It's something we're learning.
Actively.
The hard way. Some days. You can't help everybody.
Right.
Some people are stubborn. Some people don't listen. Some people don't take criticism. Some people don't like feedback. And you just there comes a point you just have to stop.
This is true.
Because now your mental health and your self-care is on the line, and you can't do things to your own detriment.
Right.
Yeah. Harriet did leave some people back.
That's right.
Harriet punched some people.
That's right. For freedom.
You're not coming. So obviously, there's of course we talked about the big thing as far as community. There is a bigger role in this because there is blurred culture. That was like the big thing that got a lot of us basically into it within like 2018 to 2020 and everything like that, because we started to see a lot of people that were attaching themselves to this habitat and growing within it. What role, from your contemporaries to you, what role does blurred culture play in the creative ecosystem of Midnight Comics?
Oh. You said, what role does blurred culture play in the ecosystem of Midnight Comics?
Like, what are you seeing in the world that you're like, I'm staying in this for the long run because I see what everybody else is doing and I can never leave this?
Yeah.
Honestly, blurs. Just blurs. Blurs are great. Not all skin coat folk can folk. Right. You can't root for everybody, but
true.
But overall, I mean, our culture is in everything. Period. Black people, Black culture is in everything. You can't do anything without knowing that it came from Black people in some way. Like, people love K-pop. I mean, come on, we already know what that is.
Of course,
they brought so much from us.
My introduction to y'all was a manga.
Yeah, right. But who made manga and anime popular in the U.S.?
Yeah, I think it's that impact and especially nostalgia. Like you said, if you go back to like Toonami and all that other stuff, the early 2000s and stuff like that. Yeah, sure. Before the way they call it, the Great Shift and all that other stuff, right? Anyway, it's seeing how much, how to say this, Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, how much we already inspire some of the classics, the greats and stuff like that, and how we can keep adding and putting our own spin and our own flavor to the point now where it's not just there's nods to us in these shows, mangas, so on and so forth. But now, again, we are the forefront. We are able to tell these stories that aren't just, oh, our history was this, and so now this is the... No. Like, so seeing how, again, if you look at the cosplay community, how they're able to shift characters that, look one way on there and transform it into something that we can call our own is so beautiful. And to add to this, and again, I don't know if this is veering off or if this is staying on the course here.
You're here.
But going back to what you've brought up about God Hand, this half Black, half Japanese woman, she's growing up in 60s Japan. Why did we choose that? What's going on there? I look at Cool Bar's hairstyle or the delinquent culture of the time. And of course, you can argue that the hairstyle is based off of the pompadour, right? But like Tasha brought up a second ago, a lot of things were inspired by us. So I thought, right, facts. But I thought of almost this Frohawk situation, right? And so she's got this like Frohawk, what have you. And then we look at the history of delinquent culture, and then why do people join gangs? Why do they form? Outcasts. Okay, right. So we did a deep dive on how it started. Oh, kamikaze pilots. They came home. They was like, well, I expect it to be gone. I still need that thrill. They leave their families behind. They, those original motorcycle gangs. Their kids grow up, and that's the delinquent culture. But girls weren't allowed to be a part of that. So they make the Sukiban culture. But you know what else is happening at the same time? U.S. military is in Japan at the time, and we have this big boom of mixed race kids, right? What happened to all of them? They were also treated as outcasts, but they had to find their own. They needed to find their own style, so on and so forth. So she, in her character design, is the progenitor of that look, right? And even down to, again, their slogan, we are human, we're Japanese, we are human, right? And so again, taking these real world situations that Black people deal with, that people of color deal with, and translating it into that, I think we're also, when you talk about that legacy of it, is where we are consistently taking what was, making something new, and showcasing that everybody's situation or experience is different and can be transformed into something good.
Even just going around to the fact that Black people can be involved in any kind of stories. We were talking last night in a room full of blurs about that Yumi and Tuscany. And it's like, yeah, I'm not a rom-com person. Not in the slightest. But Black girls deserve to have romance that's not hard romance and just is the goofy romance that white women get to have all the time.
Right.
Even if it's just like, I'm not doing that. That's dumb. We're not a monolith. Somebody gonna do it, and we deserve to have those stories too.
Look, fairy tales are a thing, but the thing is, most of them were based in fictional aspects, so you can attach anything to it. Anything to it.
Exactly.
You know, that's the whole point of a fairy tale. Now, would you say that the Omnibus as a whole is just the beginning of a bigger phase for you two?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
This was the start. Fun fact, superheroes was not on the agenda of our stories at all initially.
It really
wasn't. I kind of thought that.
Yeah. Our initial roster was the Unbeloved, The Last Day, Dogma, and Admoni. That's it.
Yeah.
Admoni was the only superhero-esque character.
Like almost born with powers, more so mutant than superhero.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
She has powers, but that was never the basis of her story, was her being a superhero.
Right. And so, but we were just like, we could use a superhero story or two.
Peer pressure happened.
A lot of peer pressure happened.
Is that what happened?
And that just happens to be the stories that, that took off first. And then all the stories that were in Tales from Midnight 2 really were the original stories that we were going to work on.
Plus some of the other stories that we've been thinking about now, like the detective noir story. Like that's the kind of story that was definitely, or like, I forgot to mention earlier, I have a graphic novel called Runaway Love, and it's a suspense. Not like that's what we wanted.
Right.
But to be able to see the pivots in that storytelling, like, hey, we do superhero, but wait until you see the stuff that we was really getting at.
Yeah.
The biggest aspect I think that drew my attention to you two is that you did creative original stories. All around the intersection of Black folk being included in these stories. Yes. And that's what I felt was special about what your company brought to a lot of people. It wasn't superhero stories. Like it was a lot of, like I listen to Joseph Village a lot. I actually got to talk to him like 2 weeks ago. And one of the big things that he brought up, he was like, everybody talks about world building. Everybody just constantly hear that shit constantly. And that's usually like the question that builds out there. He was like, what are you doing about character building? It was like, are you building characters to basically that everybody just attaches themselves to, that everybody gravitates to? It was like there's only one Batman in the world, and everybody knows his story, and obviously been flipped on in, but that's the character. The world is what it is, but everybody loves that character. Are you building driven characters that everybody just like sees themselves in, understand the roles? If they have a hardship, they like can identify with that hardship, so on and so forth. So that's all.
You know how much we put into character.
Right.
Most of
what I
our
see with y'all.
Driven. Lloyd did a
panel on that.
BlurCon called Building Characters That Last.
Yeah, for sure.
More character-driven story. I love character-driven stories. I love a good world. Don't get me wrong.
And it's like with sci-fi, I expect world building. With fantasy, I expect world building. But when I'm looking at creative original stories, they're usually character driven.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, this is a 5-year milestone. What's the next 5 years looking like?
Oh, so one of the goals within this next 5-year run is to have a new book drop every month.
Okay.
That's one of the goals. Because again, right,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be the same story, right?
Yeah.
But we want a story every single month, so that it's like, oh man, the gray, I got to wait until February to get it. Don't worry, Admoni's dropping next month, Soul's dropping after that, and so there's something consistently going for you to
Yeah.
enjoy and experience from us
Mm-hmm.
in preparation for what's next. One of the things that that I know I definitely want to do is do an animation. Which story, what that looks like,
Mm-hmm.
well, once again, let the people decide, right?
Right.
I get a cool proof of concept and then say, what do you want to see, right? But definitely an animation, and I think something else that we said the other day. I think the animation will come, or at least the proof of concept will come before we get to that month to month release, because that animation is definitely going to be the eye opener, or that thing that's going to catch a lot of people to go, ooh,
Yeah.
they're serious. You know what I'm saying? The ones that might not have that need that extra push to get into comics, because comics can be intimidating, right? We run into people plenty like, how big is this universe? I'm not trying to read 18 issues of something. I don't know what's happening. I don't
Yeah.
know you to drop, take conversation 150 on an omnibus. I don't know you that well yet. But this animation looked cold though. I like that character. Maybe I will check it out. So I think that'll happen first. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on the next 5 years, I think. What do you got?
Yeah, I know definitely the book every month. I feel like it can be done by 2028.
I agree.
Especially, honestly, depending on how the rest of this Kickstarter goes, definitely helps define that. Depending on a lot of other things we're in talks to do, will help with that. Animation here has never been my goal.
Yeah.
But I've never been against it either, because of course on the acting side of things, I'm like, when I have control over the IP and who gets cast and stuff like that, I'm always going to be it. I may not be the main character, because like if we were to do a gray animation, she has a voice actress and I am not replacing her. Okay. She's perfect, and I will never ever, like, if we had to like have a big Hollywood deal where the Gray was having animation, they're like, who's going to be the Gray? Well, we could do this person.
Nope.
Either it'll be Kira Brown, or you will not be signing. We will not be signing this contract. Period.
She's a part of the package.
That's it.
Exactly. So
Her.
right.
Well,
like, I never be the main, but I'm gonna be in there somewhere.
Yeah. No, I get it, and I always feel as though, from your point, Lloyd, that animation is the only aesthetic that genuinely works for a lot of comic books. There's certain comics that can't do live action, and we've obviously seen that, to where people have done live action comic book movies, or better yet, even TV series, and they just don't look right.
No, they don't.
Right.
There's certain things that are showcased on a page for a comic book or a manga that you can only do through animation. Because doing it in a live action form, even with the help of CGI or whatever the hell technology you want to use, necessarily does not fit the banner. And obviously it looks distasteful, and it doesn't look like it's basically going to have any class, no taste to it.
Right. The flavor.
Yeah. When I look at like an action sequence that is happening in a comic book, more than 10 times out of 10, if it's done in animation correctly, it almost looks like the page is coming to life.
Yes.
Yeah. If I may be so bold, animation is honestly one of the best medium.
Yes.
Absolutely. For comic books, for manga as a whole, it's probably the reason that Japan just goes strictly from manga to anime. They really don't even like to go to live action.
Right.
They know it's like he can't even do the fluid.
That is truly hit or miss.
Yeah. Ooh. Absolutely. Well, I'll say this. Just as a last question, what is one story you wish more people talked about?
Ooh.
Of yours?
Yeah.
Last day.
Mm.
You thought I was gonna say Dogma.
I did think you were going to say Dogma.
No, you did a really good job with the first issue, The Last Day. And
Thank you.
most people who look at it are like, "Oh snap, what's going on here?" Like, and I understand why people aren't talking about it because, of course, we pushed a lot of those stories from the first Tales from Midnight. But that's good, and I also know where it's going.
Yeah, mine has always been Blue Morpho. Partially, not even partially, mostly because, so of course we pulled from public domain character, the Butterfly.
Yeah,
first African American superhero, right? You're just like, okay, like a lot of history. Let's continue the story through our original character, Blue Morpho, but write it in such a way that we explain what happened to the Butterfly. So you can go pick up Hell Rider, Wild Bunch, Butterfly 1, Butterfly 2, pick up our book and go, oh snap. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, all right, what's next? You're going to continue the story, but that past is coming up to haunt the present. And you're just like, you know what I'm saying? But I think I know why. Just like she was saying about Last Day, it was a good beginning, middle, and end. And you're like, you know, in hindsight, it's like, damn, you know, didn't leave much room for, oh no, what's gonna happen now? It's like, no, it's over, it's done. But again, that comes with that, like we talked about earlier, that time and that evolution in our writing, where it's just like we see what we could have done. It doesn't break anything that we had planned, right? We just know that we could have done it more effectively. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Well, I will say this: I received the email earlier today, so I will say congratulations on reaching the goal for the Omnibus.
Thank
you. That is complete with a few days left. I was happy to talk to you. Look, I was ready to just market this whole thing through, but now we're just approaching stretch at this moment. You know,
exactly right.
So let's keep pushing. We got a week.
Yeah.
You know, so I appreciate the both of you. I look forward to everything that you basically have planned. You'll probably notice that I buy the books without us even talking because I know what's coming. You know,
thank you.
You know, absolutely. So obviously, I love to have you both on. I love basically having these talks with the both of you. I feel as though it's fluid. The fact that, of course, you are a Black family indie comic book publishing company. And the fact that you're able to do this together just makes it more wholesome for anybody out there, because not only it's just you, it's both of y'all speaking true to your form, to exactly what you wanted to commit to your legacy. And I appreciate that wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, of course, for us at the Faqs Project, if you haven't gotten your hands on Midnight Comics Omnibus, their 5-year Omnibus, please get your ass over to Kickstarter right now. You got a week. There's this such thing now as late pledges, and obviously that might be available to you as well. But they are just past their goal, 10 G's, completely in the bank. But this is a big book, so obviously any more that you can do on the back end is a big help to the both of them. So obviously, thank you once again.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.
So Lloyd, Natosha Jones, I'm James Grandmaster Faqs Boys. For everybody here at the Faqs Project, get your hands on this book. Be out there on Kickstarter for this last few days, and I will see you guys next time on the channel. We are out.